Every autumn, millions of gardeners look at their empty beds and leave them bare for winter. That bare soil is losing fertility every single month. The organic matter is depleting. The soil biology is slowing down. And by spring, the bed that produced abundantly in summer needs rebuilding from scratch. Cover crops fix this for free. In the next 35 minutes, Stacey Murphy is going to show you exactly how to choose the right cover crop for your specific climate and why the decision you make in the next few weeks determines how productive your garden is next spring.
Well, so people do find that the cover crops contribute to water retention over time. So it's not like it's stealing water from the spring. So if you're growing these winter cover crops in a dry region, you do need to make sure that these crops get established. And from my experience, and I haven't grown in Albuquerque or in a pure desert, but I have noticed that once a cover crop takes root and takes hold, it really requires minimal water when the temperatures are cool.
This Q&A was recorded at a past Grow Your Own Vegetables event, where Stacey Murphy answers every cover crop question, from choosing the right variety for your climate to preparing the bed and protecting the seeds from birds. For more information, free resources, and gentle guidance, you can find us at growyourownvegetables.org. And to grow alongside other gardeners just like you, join our free community at gyov.org.
So 2 inches of compost in the spring, my cover crop over the course of the winter, and oftentimes when I plant that cover crop, I'm going to show you in a minute, I do add a little bit of compost. And sometimes in between my plantings, I'll add a little bit of compost if I'm broadcasting seeds, because it's just easier to cover broadcasted seeds with compost. So I'm adding a little bit here and there. So I'm probably adding maximum 3 inches of compost to my beds at a maximum. It's probably more like 2.5. And year after year, getting great yields. So it's all you really need. And the only reason that you might need anything else is if you see deficiencies, if the leaves are starting to turn funny colors and it's not a disease, then you know that you have some sort of nutrient deficiency that you need to adjust. And the best way to go about it is to get that soil test and just see which nutrient it is. Okay, so hopefully I've beat that horse to death. From your question, it made me, I think you understand not to use synthetic fertilizers. It sounded like that was really clear, but I just wanted to underscore that really compost is amazing. It's most of what you need. You really need very little else in order to grow a lot of vegetables. All right, so I got another question about New Mexico. This is from Charlotte from Albuquerque. She wanted to know, should I plant a cover crop for the winter months? If so, how do I choose an appropriate one? How much care should I plan to provide it? All right, so Albuquerque, the first thing I did is I looked at your climate data because I think it's important to understand how we make decisions about crops is based in our climate data. So what it says for Albuquerque, and I'm going off this data, and your experience of the place may be a little bit different, so you have to go with your experience of the place too. So what the climate data shows is that you have very little rainfall, so you're and it's pretty warm, and you have a very short winter. You do get below freezing, it shows, and probably because of the hills there. So when I look at this data, so it's pretty arid, it's pretty dry, it's pretty hot. So I would say you're pretty limited in your cover crops because you want something that's going to be drought tolerant, and it does get below freezing. So you do want something that can withstand those freezing temperatures as well. So let's take a look at some of these. So what I would recommend for Albuquerque, and it looks like, one more thing about the climate data. So it looks like you're getting down below freezing from the months of probably somewhere in the end of November through maybe the beginning of March. And so you really only have a couple months to cover crop. And that's all you really need. It doesn't take more than 90 days to get a good cover crop round in and to mulch it back into the bed. So for Albuquerque, the cover crops that I would recommend would be these 4 on the screen. So Austrian winter pea, hairy vetch, and red clover are all nitrogen-fixing legumes. So that's a big benefit for you. And all of them are cold tolerant. And so I would avoid, if you see any crops that say they're cold resistant, then they're not going to work so well for you. So these are cold tolerant cover crops. And then the other thing about these 3 crops is that the Austrian winter pea is definitely drought tolerant and is going to work well for you. But the hairy vetch and the red clover are, I would say, more like moderate drought tolerant. And so those, you could plant those. Just know that they may not flourish as easily as the winter pea because they might need a little bit more water. And then the other thing I would recommend is, oftentimes when I do cover crops, I don't just go for one particular type. So a legume is a great kind of cover crop because it's a nitrogen-fixing legume. It brings that nitrogen cycle back through the soil. But I also like to mix in some kind of grass as well because grass can build up some biomass, and biomass is good at water retention. And so that's a benefit, and then that biomass is also a way to get more green manure into your soil in the long run. So I like to mix a little bit of legume with a little bit of grass in order to get a mixture of things that will really benefit my crops for the next year. So some things that are cold tolerant, they grow rapidly, they're inexpensive, and they have a low drought tolerance. So this is not so good for you, that they take a little bit more water. But they are possible. So wheat, barley, oats, or some sort of rye should work as well.
Screenshot this. This is your cover crop shopping list. 1 legume to fix nitrogen, 1 grass to build biomass and retain water. Together, they prepare your soil for the most productive spring you have ever had.
So whatever is easily available for you and maybe cheap among these particular crops would be things that I would look to grow. And something to note is that some people wonder whether or not putting in a cover crop will take up all the water that could otherwise be stored in the soil for your spring crop, if that makes sense. So basically, you're in such a dry zone, you're trying to hold on to as much water as possible. And if you're planting cover crops, then are you using that water for the cover crop? And then when it comes time to plant in the spring, will your water be more depleted? So that's a question that a lot of people in very arid climates are asking themselves. And so people have done studies to show that what's cool is that when you're planting these cover crops, when you mulch the plant in the spring and you allow those root systems that were the cover crop, so you basically slash the crop all the way down to the earth, and then you lay those cover crops down on top as a mulch, and then you let them decompose for a couple weeks before you plant into it. What happens is that underground, all those root systems are basically composting and dying up, and they're creating little air pockets for more water, and they actually are composed of water that's becoming more available for the soil as well. So people do find that the cover crops contribute to water retention over time. So it's not like it's stealing water from the spring. So if you're growing these winter cover crops in a dry region, you do need to make sure that these crops get established. And from my experience, and I haven't grown in Albuquerque or in a pure desert, but I have noticed that once a cover crop takes root and takes hold, it really requires minimal water when the temperatures are cool. So let's look at your climate data for a moment here. So what you want to do is you do want to irrigate them and establish the crop until it's about 4 inches tall. And then you know that it's not going anywhere, right? And so if you look at your climate data, you've got an average snowfall of 1 or 2 inches per month. And you've got average precipitation of, less than an inch per month. And so we know that when it's cold out, that we need anywhere between 1/2 inch and 1 inch of rain per week to really keep a crop alive. And so you may need to water a little bit periodically, but I would go as long as you can. I would do a little experiment to see how little you could water these and still have them stay for your winter. So you could put your some sort of device outside where you could measure exactly how many inches of rain and precipitation and snowfall you're getting, and try for maybe 1/2 inch per week if you could at a minimum. And if it seems like too much, cut it down. Or you could even start lower at like 1/4 inch per week and see what things look like. So that would be my recommendation. Other than a little bit of water, you really don't have to do anything with cover crops. There's no other care that needs to be taken. You just need to, at the end of the cover crop season, when you're getting ready for spring and planting, like I said, you want to, I would say 3 weeks before you want to transplant, cut back those crops in order to prepare those crops to mulch back into the soil.
1/2 inch of compost, seeds scattered on top, keep it moist until it sprouts. That is the entire preparation. Cover cropping is one of the simplest things you can do in the garden.
All right. The next question. Oh, and a couple people have asked about this. People are asking questions about the fall and about cover crops. So I just wanted to talk about how to prepare the soil for that cover crop one more time. And it's pretty straightforward. We've covered it before. So just trying to, make sure it's super crystal clear. You don't have to do too much to make sure that cover crop takes root. What I would recommend is, let's say you see a planting bed in the upper left, and it's actually got some looks like lettuce or something in it. They didn't even pull the lettuce out. They just are pouring compost right on top. What I would do is I would probably just pull out that green material if it's really big. If it's small, you could just cut it down all the way to the ground and eat it if it's lettuce, let's say. So cut it all the way down to the soil and then spread a little compost on top. I would say like 1/2 inch, would be plenty. And the reason why I'm saying add some compost is that you have seed that wants to germinate. And so seeds like nice aerated, lightweight material in order to germinate. And compost, if it's available, it's one of the easiest ways to add a little bit of fertility to your soil and give those seeds something to germinate in. And the extra benefit is that you don't need to till or loosen the soil underneath. If you add this light layer on top, the seeds will germinate and they will work their way into the soil below. So if your soil is very dense and it needs to be aerated, you might take a digging fork with the picture in the lower left, and once you dump a little compost on top, you might like the video that I showed in, I believe it's module 2 in soil. You can stick the digging fork in and just wiggle it around a little bit to give a little bit of air. You're not tilling, you're not flipping the soil over, you're just wiggling that fork back and forth in order to give a little bit of aeration, and the compost will start to fall in those holes as well. So basically what you can do is you can use the compost almost like a mulch and put a layer on top of the compost, put your seeds there, and make sure it's flat so that as you set this crop into place and you start to irrigate it, that everywhere gets equal water. You want it to be as flat as possible so all areas get water. And you're going to make sure to keep that top surface moist until that cover crop germinates and sprouts. When it starts to get, taller than an inch, you don't have to worry about irrigating it quite as much. And when it gets to 4 inches, if it's cool out, you might not, and if you get enough rain, you might not have to irrigate it at all. It might just be fine all by itself. And a lot of times, places like New York City, they get, 4 inches of rain per month, plenty. That, we don't do anything with our cover crops. Once they set in place, we're good for the season.
Now, this is one of Stacey's favorite cover crop strategies. The peas do the nitrogen-fixing work underground while feeding you pea shoots above ground all winter. 2 things from one action.
Now, something to watch out for with cover crops is birds, like a lot of the crops that are cover crops, they really like those seeds. And so if you have a bird problem, and one year it was amazing at the youth farm, we would set up to put in the cover crop seed, and there would be like swarms of birds ready to swoop in, and they were just waiting. They saw us with they knew, they watched us prep the beds, and they're like, here it comes, we know it's coming next. This is all the seeds. And we would sprinkle the seed down, and there would be just swarms of birds coming in. So we had to, in some cases, cover our cover crop with row cover, which is that polypropylene cloth that's so useful for everything. It helps to warm up the beds as well. So that's something you can do if you have a bird problem or somebody stealing your seeds, or some sort of critter stealing your seeds, is you can lay row cover on top of an area that you just germinated, and that will help keep the birds away. It also helps keep the soil a little bit warmer if it's starting to cool off, and you're worried about the temperature and the germination of that cover crop. You can put down the row cover. The other thing the row cover does is it, in a way, helps to retain the moisture, and you can water right through it. You don't have to lift off the row cover in order to water. You can just water right through it. So a lot of times we'll protect with row cover when we're doing our cover crop, but you don't have to. I've definitely done my cover crops without row cover. Sometimes my germination rates are a little bit less without the row cover, but it's not that much less. All right, so that's preparing for those cover crops. And I'm just jumping over to the Facebook page to see if there's any new questions over there. I don't see anybody posted anything over there. I think everybody's on the webcast this time around. Yeah, I see people on the webcast is where everybody is. So if you have another question, please post it on the box on the left-hand side of the screen. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going through the questions I have, and let me just look at the time, and I'm committed to answering every question, and I believe I am on track. Yes, I am on track. And if you have any additional questions, please let me know. If for some reason there's more questions after tonight, I'm very happy to respond. If it's something quick and you want to send me an email, or if it's a question that will take a little bit more effort, I might shoot a little video and post it somewhere. So after the course ends, you can still post your questions during the course of the season. I'm sure that you guys are going to have more questions as the season ramps up, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere first. Some people in the Southern Hemisphere is ramping down. All right, so I got a question from, who is this one? Oh, also Dominique, about, where did it go? She says, in Seattle area, will I need to cover my veggies with hoops and materials, or they can make it without protection? So when you're asking yourself, so we just did the shade cloth and we looked at climate data to look at whether or not we needed shade cloth. And so now is the chance to look at our climate data and say, okay, are we going to need to prepare for cold weather growing? So the Seattle weather, when I go to climate data for Seattle, what I see is some rain, they don't list snowfall here for some reason, but they lump it all together in precipitation, and they show temperatures that range from peak summer is, average high maybe 76, average low 56, and then in the winter it looks like the temperatures are still pretty mild for the most part, average lows 36, but I'm guessing you probably get some frosts every once in a while, just guessing, because if this is average, that means that you probably see some 30s and maybe even some 20s. And I know there have been times when I have been in a town that will say, oh, typically our average low is 55, and then they have a night that's 35 or 33, and it's a total freak, but it happens. So I'm guessing that where you are, you do get a couple of nights that are below freezing. So you want to be ready to do something about that. So one of the ways you can do that is a cold frame. You can build a little box and put some sort of, plastic sheet on top. That's one way to handle it. If you want to go the hoops route, and I would say it would be helpful to have it on hand in case things get too cold. And what I like about this particular hoop setup is that you can do this really fast. Let's say your winter growing is you don't have a cold spell. You could just be growing without this. But if you're going to have a cold snap, having the hoops available will allow you really quickly to go put like a little warm blanket on your crops with the row cover. So again, I always look to the Johnny's website. You guys have the discount, so that's why I look there. And they have this coiled number 9 support wire, and it's 60 foot long, and it creates about 11 hoops. And so this is something that's really fast. It's fairly inexpensive. You can reuse it over and over. It's portable. It's small, so you can just you can untuck it from the ground, lift it up, and just put them anywhere. So that's why I like them. And then basically you can cover with either plastic or with polypropylene row cover. And I would recommend the row cover versus the plastic in your particular situation, because you don't have snow necessarily or a lot of it. You have more like a little bit of cold weather. So I would have these on hand for sure if I was in Seattle. And the other thing is that even if you don't get a cold snap, when you're down in those 40s and in those 30s, a lot of your crops, your spinaches, your kale, olive crops, they're really growing slowly, and the days are short. And so what can happen is that those tunnels, the little low tunnels that you're building with these little hoops, it's going to improve your growing. It's going to warm up the area, and you're going to get more yield, essentially. So I would say maybe if you have a space that's, let's say it's 500 square feet of growing space, you might not need to get hoops for your whole space, but maybe you put in hoops in a couple spots. And that's where you do the majority of your winter growing, and everywhere else you cover crop. So, and then you could rotate where you do that winter growing each year. But I think I'm about to change that answer, because I think your next question leads me down a slightly different route. But yeah, so that's my answer to whether or not you need hoops in Seattle. I think they're a good idea. I think they would improve the amount of produce that you could grow in your season, and they would be a protective measure for any kind of cold snaps if you are growing over the winter. And this, so let me just be specific. This is if you're growing vegetable crops that you intend to eat. If you're growing things like cover crops and you're not going to eat them, don't worry about it. You don't need the hoops. Just grow your cover crops, and if you get a cold snap and a little bit of them die back, no big thing. You'll bounce right back. And a lot of them, you can find those cold hardy cover crops. And one of those crops that I would recommend is you could do some peas as your cover crop, and you could actually have pea shoots all winter long and just keep trimming them and eating them as salad. And so you kind of do double purpose. You get some edibles and you get your cover crop.
3 weeks. That is the window. Cut it too late and your spring planting is delayed. Cut it on time and your beds are the most fertile they have ever been.
So that's what I would say about hoops and Seattle. And you had an additional question, which was about how much sun for winter growing. So you said, I have plenty of sun in my summer veggie garden, but in winter, because of the big trees, the veggie garden receives less sun up until March. How much sun for a winter veggie garden? Would it be best for me to use a different plot for winter crop where trees will not block as much of the sun? So yeah, that's a problem. I definitely have seen this happen. I know that where I grow, there's a certain spot that I can grow in the winter and not in the summer, and vice versa. So it's the same goes for the winter as it does for summer. You need at least 4 hours of sunlight for those greens. If you're going to grow any greens or some of the root vegetables like radishes, carrots, but really, you ideally want more like 6 hours of sunlight, and especially because it's colder out, and so those crops are sensitive to the less sunlight. Now, even when they're getting 8 hours of sunlight a day, let's say they're out in the middle of a field with no shade, just the fact that it's cold and that the number of sunlight hours in the total day dips below, I think it's 10 or 12. When that starts to happen, vegetable crops start to hibernate quite a bit. And so this is a study that Elliot Coleman did, and this is up in Maine where it gets pretty cold. And so basically what starts to happen is the plants will hibernate. Even though they're getting enough sun, the days are shortening, and so the plant is kind of hibernating. So it's an interesting thing that happens. So you do need at least 4 hours of sunlight a day for those greens and those roots, but recommended more like 6. So I would say you might need to find a new winter place to grow, which could be good, because then what you can do is maybe have one area, a small area for winter growing, put a hoop over it, and then in the summer you could cover crop it with something like a warm crop, like a buckwheat or something, and prepare it again for the winter growing. So that would be my recommendation, Dominique. Let's see. And I got another question. Oh, I meant to put this slide farther up with the other one. So along with people asking about cover cropping and prepping for cover crops, there was also a question, I think this is from Julie, about what do you do when it's fall and you are going to put in some cover crops, but the soil's pretty wet. And I believe she's also in Seattle. So, it's so funny that the extremes are so interesting. I was in San Diego for a while where there was no rain, and here we are talking about San Diego where, things get pretty wet. So when your soil is pretty wet, you really don't want to work the soil at all. And so this process of dumping a little bit of compost and spreading your cover crop seed is the same methodology that I would use, so that you don't have to disturb the soil underneath in order to get your cover crop started. And you might not even have to water your cover crop in, because everything below is so moist, and that moisture is going to wick up into the compost, and so you probably don't even have to water your seeds in. You just need to lay them down, put a little bit of compost on top, and you should be good to go. That would be my recommendation. And so this loosening of the soil doesn't necessarily need to happen, but it can happen that when you have a lot of soil or a lot of rain, your soil can really compact and get really hard. And at that point, you really don't want to work the soil, because it can clump, it can clod is what they call it. You can actually alter the structure of the soil, and it can create these large clods that are really hard to break up. So you really don't want to work that soil when it's wet. But if you do get a break at all, and it does start to dry out a little bit, if you find that your soil has compacted and it's not wet, the soil is not wet, like if you reach in, grab a handful of it and squeeze it, if it's not, oozing water, then I would recommend loosening that soil just a little bit before you put down those seeds to germinate, just so that when that next crop goes in, there is some aeration there. Now keep in mind, if I were the one planting that cover crop and it was a pretty wet scenario, I might think about, and let's say my soil was compacting, I might think about some sort of grass as my cover crop, because what grass is going to do is it's going to have a really thick root structure. It's going to create lots of gaps and spaces in that soil, and it's going to naturally aerate the soil. So come spring, when again you have a lot of rain, all of those root systems, as they die up, are going to create little tunnels and spaces for that moisture to wick through. So I would be thinking in terms of lots of grasses as my cover crops would be my opportunity there. All right, so we're coming down to the last 10 minutes. I'm just double checking to see if there's additional questions. And I see a couple questions from Crystal that came in over Facebook. And I'm going to get to those in just a moment. So it looks like we're going to get through everything pretty, right on time. So let's see what happens here. But if we go over a little bit, I do apologize. I totally respect your time, and I'll do my best to wrap up on time. But if we go over, I do want to get to all the questions since it is our final time together. So the last couple questions I think this was from Julie as well. She wanted to know, there's only really a couple weeks of the year that she needs hydration, and because where she is, she's getting enough rainfall for the most part. And so what do you do when you only need a couple weeks of hydration? So I would say that, a drip irrigation system is a little much if you only have a couple weeks of the year that you're going to need it. And so it's like, would you really invest hundreds of dollars for those couple of weeks, and is it worth it? My guess is no. And so what I might think about instead, if it were me, is either this, depending on how big your space is, thinking about some sort of water reservoir system that could feed the soil water gradually. And I've done this in containers so much where I'll fill up some sort of water bottle and I'll flip it upside down into that soil. And when the soil is nice and wet, the water pressure builds up in the soil, and no more water will come out of that container and into the soil, so that not all that water will come pouring out. It'll just hold itself in the bottle, and then as water is needed, it will wick into the soil. So if I have a container garden, this is what I do. Now, if I had planting beds, that were not very big. Let's say I had 100 square feet. I might ask all my friends for all their wine bottles, and I might maybe do something with those wine bottles and stick them in the ground periodically. Oyas might be the right way to go for this particular scenario.
Think about where
which are those clay pots that, you might be a good candidate for that. Although if the rest of your year is really moist, then it may not make so much sense. So that's one option. The other option is if it's just a couple weeks. I have found that there is usually a friend, a neighbor, a kid, somebody who's willing to water in return for some harvested vegetables. And so teach them how to water. Basically teach them to, in this case, you'll see that this is not how I recommend watering necessarily. I would say I would allow that water to come up and down more so that it's raining down on the plants, that it goes up into the air and then rains gently down on the plants. It looks here like it's attacking the plants a little bit. So teach them how to water correctly. And when possible, you're not watering the leaves of the plants, you're watering the soil. And that's particularly important for things like cucumbers and eggplant and peppers and tomatoes. I would say anything in the tomato family, anything in the melon family. I would never water the leaves of the plant. And a lot of times you're getting those plants up off the ground, and so you don't necessarily have to water the leaves. You can just water the soil. But when you're watering something like this, like beets or chard, I'm not sure which one it is here, it's hard not to water the leaves, right? And it's okay to water the leaves of these kinds of crops because they don't have as many waterborne diseases that they can get. So as much as possible, water the soil, but it may be the case that you have to water the plants, just not the tomato family, not the curcubit family. All right, so that would be my recommendation. And I may seem like I'm dodging the question, but I really think it's your best option when you just have a couple of weeks of hydration. It just depends on who you are. It might, if you know you're going to have an irrigation system around for many years, 10 years, then an investment of a couple $100 for those 3 weeks each year for 10 weeks, that's like 30 weeks. Maybe at some point that equation works out and it makes sense to invest in it. So that's what I would say for that. All right, and I'm going to jump over to Crystal's questions. Okay. Julie had a clarifying question. And let me know if I'm interpreting this correctly, Julie. How about planting a legume like pod peas for spring, summer, and kale, etc., for winter? So I'm going to ask you a clarifying question, and then I'm going to answer Crystal's questions, and I'm going to come back to you after you clarify. So what I read into your question is that you're wondering if that's an okay progression of crops in terms of nutrient levels, or are you still asking about cover crops? So
think about where you were at the start of this video. Empty garden beds in autumn, soil losing fertility every month, no plan. Now look at what you know. Mix one nitrogen-fixing legume with one biomass-building grass, Austrian winter pea or hairy vetch with rye or oats. Spread ½ inch of compost, broadcast the seeds, keep moist until established, lay row cover over to protect from birds. And 3 weeks before spring planting, cut it all to the ground. Let the mulch decompose, plant straight into it. Or plant peas and harvest pea shoots all winter from the same cover crop. Your empty winter beds were never supposed to be empty. Now they never will be again. You are not the gardener who leaves beds bare over winter anymore. You are the one who broadcasts the seeds, who mixes the legume with the grass, who cuts it back 3 weeks before spring and plants into the most fertile soil the bed has ever had. If you want to keep learning from Stacey Murphy, there is a whole community of gardeners growing extraordinary food, completely free at growyourownvegetables.org. This Q&A was recorded at a past Grow Your Own Vegetables event, and what Stacey just shared with you took her years of growing, failing, and figuring out to discover. Now imagine sitting down with 15 experts, exactly like her. 15 of the most respected gardeners, herbalists, and soil scientists on the planet, each sharing the single most powerful lesson they know, the insight that changed everything about how they grow food, the thing they wish someone had told them at the beginning. Clinical herbalists who can turn your garden into a medicine cabinet, soil scientists who will change how you see every handful of dirt, food growers who have fed entire communities from a backyard. All of it waiting for you right now, completely free at the Superfood Garden Summit. Go to growyourownvegetables.org/summit, register in 30 seconds, and start watching immediately.